2 days ago, this interview with the CEO of Instagram dropped, and he shared 9 things about the Instagram algorithm that I did not know before. For example, the percentage reach per 1,000 impressions is the most important stat in the Instagram algorithm.
But one of the most important things to look at if you're trying to evaluate how your videos or anything is doing on Instagram is definitely the sends. Sends, I would look at sends per reach. So of the people who saw it, how many of them sent it to a friend?
Yes, not likes, not even view duration. But don't believe me, just listen.
Does like watch time matter?
Yeah.
Or length of time I spend on a reel?
Yeah, they definitely matter. They matter a lot less than sends.
So is that the most important factor then when it comes to reach, shares per impressions?
On average, yeah.
That is how many people send your post to friends divided by the total impressions you get. So in this example, of course, 20 cents are better than 5 with the same amount of views. Number 2.
If you want to have a successful short form piece of content, it ideally should be able to be viewed with the sound off. How many people watch Instagram with their sound off?
It was roughly half. That's why captions are so important.
Yeah.
That's why you got to make sure your captions are visible in the feed, not just in the full screen viewer. One of the classic mistakes is put your captions and you don't even see them until you expand the video.
50% probably watch your reels without sound. I mean, I didn't know this, and most editors put the captions on the bottom, probably yours as well. So I created an overlay that you can download for free and send to your editor or use yourself if you edit your own videos. You can find it in the link in the description. Number 3, early engagement.
Any of our reels that, hit the I would say 3-4 million plus mark, which is only a few, but the ones that have, it's relatively immediate that they start getting shared.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like within the first hour, if people are sharing them in their stories at a high velocity, then that's what we're seeing.
You see the finger? You know this is important. Early engagement is the holy grail, and I must say this is absolutely true based on my own personal experience. For instance, this video that I posted some time ago got more than 10 times the amount of impressions, and the main thing I noticed is because it got a flood of comments in the first hour. So ask yourself, how can I get comments, sends in the DMs and story shares in the first 2 hours? Again, I share some of my ideas in the checklist. Number 4, don't trust the Instagram analytics dashboard.
Is that a stat that you give to us?
Yeah, you can look at shares and you can look at reach, and then you can divide those two. We should make it, and I have had this conversation many times with the team. It's amazing how little influence it feels like I have on a day-to-day basis.
So the most important stat, cents per reach, is not shown in their professional dashboard. And of course, I want to measure it, so I started to work on an automated Google Sheets dashboard. And if you want free access when it's ready, you can join the free WhatsApp group below. Again, it's free, but only for serious creators. No spam, no promotions, and no questions that can be answered on Google. All right, number 5.
How important are follower counts?
Follower count is super important because you're going to have a much better chance of reaching anybody who follows you than anybody who doesn't follow you. So there's a really strong correlation between how many followers you have and how many people you reach. That said, they matter less today in a world where there is more time spent looking at recommendations than before. The larger percentage of your average reach will be through the recommendation system.
Simply said, most of your reach comes from recommendations, not your followers. So assume you're talking to strangers instead of people who know you already, because they likely don't. Even Alex Emoji with 2.6 million followers does this. Listen up.
Way more people don't know me than know me. But you kind of fall into this trap of assuming you're talking to your warm audience rather than what you're making the content for, which is people who've never met you before. And so keeping that top of mind, which is that we want to make sure that we welcome everyone and that we don't have inside jokes that only people who are on the inside feel it, because then all it does is it excludes people that are new.
And you want new people to follow you, right? Number 6, are there different algorithms for each of the 3 feeds that Instagram has? And then I'm talking about the home feed, the explore feed, and the reels feed. And the answer is yes, there are differences.
In those 3 places, what are all those factors that we just talked about? Sends per reach, length, essentially average view duration on a video, engagement, those factors rank equally across those 3 discovery platforms?
No, not quite the same. So in feed, we try to heavily preference content from accounts that you follow and accounts where you've got mutual follows. So if you and I follow each other, we're probably friends in real life. So that content we will value more in a number of ways. One of it is we just shift more of the weight in the value model towards things that friends would do with each other's content, like commenting, which would matter less in an unconnected content where if you're commenting on a public reel, it's just different. It's a different place. That probably matters less in unconnected surfaces like Explore or Reels.
Again, I share practical tips in the Notion checklist. But listen closely to the following clip. It's very important to understand that. Honestly, I've never heard it before.
Part of our reason to be, which is to connect people with friends.
Did you know that? To connect people with friends. Not the world, not the news, not famous people, but friends. That's apparently their mission, which is crucial to know for what Adam will share in the next two clips.
The content that rises to the top is the content you would share with an individual in a conversation, not that you would yell from a rooftop to the whole world.
That's really interesting, like that.
It is interesting because I always thought that reaching the masses was much more important. But Adam is saying that they prioritize posts that get sent to friends even more. Which brings me to probably the most important thing that I learned from this interview, which is the DM flywheel.
That is an interesting moment because you discovered something, that someone made something creative, something beautiful, something interesting, and then you shared it with a friend. In this hypothetical world, you and Handro are also buds.
Of course.
And then he's psyched to get it. And that you might actually have a conversation about gardening, basil, whatever you like. But then he came back to Instagram, and then he actually probably checked out some more things. And then maybe he saw an amazing, soccer highlight. And then he sent that to me. And that's the flywheel.
So again, start measuring cents per reach. It's probably the most important thing, but also probably the most overlooked one, since most creators just look at their views, right? So how does this DM flywheel work in short? You see an interesting post, you want to share the emotion, so you share it with a friend in the DMs, and your friend now comes back to Instagram and get hooked to do the exact same cycle. That is the DM flywheel. And Adam predicts this will only increase more in the future.
Sharing is going to shift from feed-based formats to messaging-based formats. You mentioned Snapchat before. Snapchat is not a stories product. Yes, they have stories. The vast majority of sharing on Snapchat is in messages. There are way more photos and messages shared on Instagram in a given day than posted to stories. And there are way more photos and videos posted to stories than posted to feed. Yet people think of us as a feed app. So you're going to see that continue to shift.
DMs. More people will share stuff in private DMs rather than on feed and stories. For example, instead of reposting a funny meme you see or some of those motivational quotes to your story or even your feed, you share it in the DMs to a friend. And my prediction, Instagram will continue to prioritize DM engagement. So maybe go through your own DMs and find out why you sent certain posts to friends recently. And here Colin and Samir share their assumptions behind their outlier views.
A lot of those reels are about generative AI or about the Ray-Ban metas, about like future tech. And I think that, plays to multiple human emotions. One is like excitement, there's like the excitement for the future. Isn't this crazy? I got to share it with a friend. The other is fear, right? Like this is terrifying. So I have to share it with a friend.
Yeah.
And I think when you tap into understanding, like triggering an emotional reaction from someone, and ideally that emotional reaction is the desire to connect with someone else, that's where we've seen the highest velocity.
So if you can create content that stimulates the desire for someone else to share it with a friend because of emotions such as strong fear or excitement, then you may start to see more outlier views as well. Now let's hear Adam talk about the last thing that most creators right now are wondering about, especially after Instagram, released a new feature.
That's a challenge that creators have with short form content, no matter where it is building brand, right? If you're making long form content, it is difficult, but if someone chooses to spend 20 minutes with you, they will remember you tomorrow. There are times when with short form content, because you can consume so much in such a short amount of time, that you may not actually remember the creator you just saw, even if you loved what you just saw, right? It feels like it served the purpose of entertainment for you, like that lean back experience.
I don't know if I agree. So yes, if you were going to compare someone who watched one 15-second video end to end and one 15-minute video end to end. So clearly you're going to have more memory, more affiliation with 15-minute video. I don't know that means that on average, the average short-term creator has a harder time building a brand, because the average short-form video creator can make many more videos in the same amount of time for the same amount of money. So you get more at bats.
I think it's what makes it harder to stand out.
On the first impression,
you are surrounded, yeah.
So do not use the 90+ second reel feature. They even shared that reels over 90 seconds are not being recommended in Explore, Reels page, or the For You pages. So this means it is only shown to your own followers. So only use the option if you have a clever reason to do so. By the way, the feature is only available in the US anyways. But more so, here Adam shares the big reason why the algorithm loves short reels.
You start a conversation, then that helps them discover more things themselves, and they send it to someone else, and that starts another conversation. And that's why short form video for us is so symbiotic with connecting people with their friends. Whereas in the world you come from of long form video is much less so. Because if you spend 20 minutes watching or 50 minutes watching a pod video, you're probably consuming a lot less content from friends, sending a lot less things to friends.
Long form videos do not spark the DM flywheel. So don't post them on Instagram, but I recommend consider posting a compilation, for example, of your views to YouTube as low-hanging fruit. Just try it out to see if it has any impact and gets views. By the way, if you want to know why total watch hours matters more than views on any platform, then you may watch this video next. And maybe send this video or the free resources to your team so they are up to date as well, without paying them to watch 92 minutes of a podcast. Talk soon.